So again, good morning. My name is Curtis Campbell. I'm joined here by Mr. Mike Tippets, who is the Vice President of the Hughes Global Media Solutions Group, a product and solution of Hughes. Mr. Tippets is responsible for the development of managed services, software applications, and solutions based on Hughes digital media products and technologies. The Hughes Media Solutions Group has been providing distance learning solutions for enterprise and government customers since 1995. Mike has been directly responsible for the vision and delivery of these Hughes solutions since 2008. Mr. Tippets meets regularly with enterprise customers and government agencies who are looking for ways to increase employee engagement and deliver training to large distributed organizations. He also serves on the board of directors for the Federal Government Distance Learning Association. So again, welcome, and we'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Thank you, Curtis. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone joining us here this morning. We're going to go through some information about digital menu boards today, and I'm quite excited because it does seem like everywhere we go now, we start to see digital menu boards popping up in large and small locations, as well as franchise brands and non-franchise brands. So I hope we can share some information and potentially answer questions that you might have about this exciting new field. During the course of this presentation, I'm going to refer to a variety of market segments, including quick service restaurants, casual dining restaurants, lube and oil service centers, and more. I believe that the value of digital menu boards is universal. I think the implementation, the ROI, total cost of ownership, and other variables might vary by market, but I believe that the value of digital menu boards is universal, and that the time has come. As I said at the outset, everywhere we go, we're seeing more and more of these digital screens being used as menu boards and information boards in conjunction with menu boards. Anywhere that offers a range of services, a la carte items, things that are focused on the customer arriving and making choices are starting to require digital menu boards. Digital menu boards allow an organization, large or small, even small single location organizations, to be flexible and dynamic in the messaging about their offerings. Simple things like changing the price of an item based on the time of year, promotional status, inventory levels, or to highlight upsell opportunities are all necessary in running an effective service business and maximizing both revenue and margins. And candidly, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference there, growing revenue as well as growing margins and using digital menu boards and digital signage to do that. Remember, whatever your goals are for using a digital menu board, you're going to be successful if you create, support, and even enhance guest engagement. Broadly stated, retail of any kind, guest engagement is accomplished by providing great service. Okay, I don't care what color the walls are, if you have digital signage on the, in your organization or not. First and foremost, great customer service is what builds guest engagement. Digital media can help with customer service and can be a tool for communication, information, and what I sometimes refer to as edutainment or infotainment. And we'll continue to talk about that a little bit as we go through. Digital menu boards can save space. With talented designers, you can put much more information on a digital display in a more readable style and format than you can in the same space using static graphics. The ability to rotate information alone can accomplish this. One example might be multiple languages. If a service location is in a neighborhood that speaks primarily Spanish, you certainly want to provide Spanish language support on your menus. But with digital, you can rotate between Spanish and English and account for a larger portion or the majority of your customer base. And unlike printed materials, errors and changes can be implemented almost immediately. I had the opportunity to talk with some friends who are in the franchise food service industry, and they chuckle because even though they are part of a national franchise brand, they tell me that probably once or twice a quarter, they will get some sort of POS material, something that's meant to go on the menu board, in the window, on the doors, around on the table tents, that will have typos or mistakes, even though obviously there is an entire organization looking after that. When you're digital, when those mistakes are found, it's much, much quicker and easier. One more thing, when you're printing static materials, you're almost forced to create the exact same thing everywhere. And this is good for consistent branding, but you lose the ability to reach out to localized values, traditions, and opportunities in the community. And with digital menu boards, you have the ability to create what I refer to as localized consistency. Now, you will maintain the brand identity, but you can allow some localized uniqueness, which will create engagement and further drive brand loyalty. No matter what you're considering to do with digital menu boards, you may have tested the digital menu boards, you may have deployed some, or you may be looking for ways to improve. All of us will find the information in this presentation helpful, and we're glad that you chose to join us here today. Let's examine digital menu boards in a little more detail, starting with one of the most common concerns I hear when speaking to people who are looking at digital menu boards. And you might think that cost is the most common concern. But with the decline in display prices and the increased competition and availability of tools and technologies, price is not actually the most common concern. You can summarize the most common concern in one word. That word is complexity. Everyone is busy. And when you consider new projects, you're concerned about how you will staff to support the new functionality. Who is going to take time from their already busy schedules to learn the new system, to become proficient and carry out the management of this new tool, particularly when the output is something that is so highly visible as digital menu boards, digital signage in the restaurants or in your service locations, and more. The concern that we hear is that the system will be hard to use and soon will become burdensome and likely will lie fallow and not realize the desired potential. And nobody wants to be associated with failure. And failure is not necessarily, a complete upside down, the system doesn't work. Failure may be the fact that we put this investment in place and then we don't change anything. We go weeks and even months without changing. I've spoken to retailers, I've spoken to a number of service organizations who started into the project, got it up and running, and then have left the screens. It's terrible if you walk into a location and you see something that you know was a Thanksgiving time promotion or that you know was something from first of the year that has actually expired. When I'm talking to people and we're consulting about how to do things and how to organize things, I jokingly say there's nothing more depressing than a Valentine's Day ad on February 15th. Because when I'm in that location and it's running that, it reminds me that I forgot to get a Valentine's Day gift for my wife, or it just shows that the organization isn't staying timely and current. So we want to get past that concern about complexity, and we want to make sure that when we go into the program, we have a good workflow and a good process that's going to allow us to be successful. Now, the first thing that I think you should understand about any digital signage system in general is the process needs to be straightforward. You want to put content on the screen, you want to bring content into the system first of all, choose when and where it's going to be played, and then let the system handle the rest. Let the system worry about, oh yes, this content is designed for East Coast but not West Coast. This content is designed for this time of day, not that time of day. Your homework will be in challenging any potential supplier to show you how simple this can be. And really, it should be distributed. It shouldn't require that we go to a single PC that has a particular application on it. We need to make it so that Tom can work on content, Mary can approve the content, Susan can schedule it and choose, and then, if at all possible, even allow the local sites a little bit of flexibility, and we'll talk about that as we go through. But if a solution allows you to schedule a window of time each week in your schedule where you log in, add content, choose the variables of when and where it should play, then you have a manageable solution. But you must be able to work out into the future as well, planning for promotions and content that may not be displayed until a future date. and automatically retiring that content when the promotion ends. And now you can focus on the business, you can focus on the messaging that you want and simply schedule that out there. And the things that you deal with in real time are urgent situations and exceptions to the rule or the occasional emergency that has to be handled in real time. User interfaces, in my opinion, they need to be browser-based. Don't require a proprietary application. Allow you to administrate from wherever you are and whenever you need. It's also nice if you can define roles so they can be created and allow people certain administrative responsibilities without granting them all admin responsibilities or all access. One common role that we've seen in digital signage and digital implementations in general, especially when you're in like a menu board and you have material and information coming in from agencies and so forth, is to provide a role of content provider. This is someone who can log in, upload content, but they can't add it to a schedule, they can't push it out to the players until someone else approves it and adds it to the schedule. This is nice because, again, it allows me to spread the workload out. Now, you know, I mentioned something earlier, I called it localized consistency. We have found, as we've worked with retailers, a strong desire by the local store team to be able to implement some local content. Now, depending on what you're doing, if I'm customer-facing, like digital menu boards will be, that may be something, you know what, this particular promotion simply doesn't work in our area, okay? Whatever it is that we're offering, the community here doesn't ring well with them. Give me the ability to do something localized. But if you continue on that administrative theme, you know, and make it so that the different people who have the different responsibilities can do that, you need a system that will allow you to grant these limited control points out to site administrators and others. Once your team has experienced this type of flexibility, they're going to take it and really maximize it. I have seen this multiple times as we've worked with clients, as consulted with them and helped them develop different tactics and procedures. But once you show it, initially, there's no question. Initially, local site people say, "Look, we're busy enough. Just make sure that that has the proper information on it. I don't want to deal with it." But once you show them the options that they have to impact their local community, their local customers, they take that and they really start to get involved in that. And what you find is you get some terrific best practices that can be shared back with the broader organization. So why make the investment? You know, when the chief financial officer asks, why do we want to make this investment? Here are some high-level things to consider. I'm going to set the foundation a little bit here with some information that I've gathered over the years. Some of this is getting a couple of years old, but I believe it's all still fairly accurate and quite relevant. When asked about sales uplift, the majority of people we speak to, they're reporting about a 3% sales uplift. Okay? About 65% of the people we talk to say it's somewhere between 0 and 3%. Most of them are closer to 3% than not. Okay? A few people get a little bit higher. And we do hear the occasional report of something, you know, oh, yeah, we put up a screen and we focused on some products and we saw 20% increase. Generally speaking, that is very much the exception. Now, the other thing that we have found, and this is true whether I'm doing a single sign, kind of a promotional board in my restaurant or about one of the services in my service location, or if I am actually just making it part of an overall menu board listing, the nature of the product that you focus on will impact the amount of uplift that you see. And I think that sounds fairly obvious, but an example, if you're in a situation where you're doing services and you focus on a service that is an additional $9.95, $14.95, maybe even $19.95, and it's a service that has to be repeated every 90 days to 6 months, you will see a strong uplift if you focus that on the screen. because that's within that range of easy decision making. But if you if you're focusing on something that is $299, this service is an extra $299, then of course you're going to see a much lower take rate on that. But the interesting thing there, it plays to what we're going to talk about some more here, and that's about the margin. In QSRs, in quick service restaurants, again, I've been a junk food eater most of my life, and I go in and I order a meal. I always order the meal that has French fries and drinks. But several of my friends in that industry are telling me that really it's a lower percentage than you might think that add the drink. And so they're frequently wanting to put, that nice ice-cold beverage, whether it's iced tea or soda or whatever the case may be, up on the screen to remind people to grab that, because therein lies so much of the gross margin, so much of the profit. And a hamburger with a soda, the overall profitability of that ticket is much higher. And the same is true in the service industry. There are things when I go to my local lube and oil place, if they can get me to let them do this little additional service while I'm already in the bay and I've already got my hood up, it's a few more dollars for me, and it's quite a bit more profitable for them. When I'm asked about when I have asked about ROI, about 70% of the people say they recovered their investment in 18 months or less. A few, about 12%, said they did so in the first 6 months. And really, again, that's very heavily dependent on the type of business that you're in and the type of customers that you have. Again, speaking to the quick service restaurant industry, I've had a lot of discussions with that industry, and of course they explain to me frequently, Mike, 70+% of our business actually goes through the drive-through. So if I put investment inside my store, I'm only addressing somewhere, 30%, maybe at best 40% of the clientele that come through the customer base. And we go back and forth on that, and there's a number of reasons why you still would like to do that. And candidly looking at it and saying, how can I incorporate the digital aspect, even moving out into the drive-through to the best of our ability? And there's a lot of discussion when you take digital signage out of doors, weatherproofing and sunlight and the ability to read and different things. But what universally we come back to, and there is agreement on, in investing in some of this digital inside the store can help make the business that does happen inside the store more profitable. We can do some more of that uplift and some more of that moving on. So again, and then lastly, as you're making a business case, as you are internally putting together what you want to do, and people are asking why, and not because they're negative, they're just simply poking at it and comparing opportunity costs. People that have done digital menu boards, 68% of them say the primary reason they did it was for centralized control of the content. Better pricing flexibility is high, lower cost to make menu changes. All of these things are important concepts and important things to consider in your own environment as you look at the business case for doing it. And notice of these items, the lowest ranked reason for proceeding was higher check averages. You would have thought that would be the most important, growing that revenue. But let's just do a little bit of analysis here. And again, you can take these concepts and apply your own numbers to them, or by all means, reach out to me, after this event, we can talk in more detail. But there is research that shows digital menu boards will create sales uplift, and as I've said, they vary, but the consensus seems there's going to be about a 3% uplift in sales revenue because of the presence of some suggested selling. So let's do some math. If your location is averaging $1.2 million in annual revenue, and you recognize a 3% uplift in sales, that's going to equal about $36,000 in new revenue. And if you're operating at an average of 8% net profit, cost of goods and normal expenses subtracted, that's going to bring about $2,880 of incremental profit. And that means probably a 5 to 7 year ROI on any reasonable digital menu board implementation. But if we focus on the increased margin, Let's talk about the ability to focus on specific products. Now let's talk about increasing product sell-through on items that have a higher gross margin, and by definition then, the highest net profit contributions. If you had the same 3% uplift in sales, but it was on a product or service that returned 80% gross margin, you'd likely be looking at a 50% net profit contribution from that item. So your net profit uplift in the previous example would turn to be more closer to $18,000 in a year, and that would drop your ROI on the system to more like 1 to 2 years. So again, it would fall into that framework that we talked about on the previous information of somewhere between 12 and 18 months. And that is a much more impactful ROI and story to tell. Now, when you start talking about digital signage products, digital menu boards, promo boards, things in your location that are going to help people choose product, there's always a discussion of what I refer to as soft ROI. And I wish I could say I came up with that term, but to be perfectly honest, it's been thrown at me by chief financial officers at many of the places that I have worked with over the years. Let's talk about some of the soft returns that are available and candidly need to be considered in the business case, but will likely be debated as to what the value of them will be. But let's start with communication. Your ability to communicate the value of certain items, to highlight the health-conscious aspects of your food, the ability to highlight the safety importance of certain auto services such as headlight cleaning or something of that nature, the ability to communicate to patrons when their service is complete. Mr. Jones, your car is now ready. Mrs. Brown, it's time to pick up your order. These are time-saving efficiencies, and they're difficult to quantify, but they do make a difference. They make a difference in your operational aspects. They make a difference in the customer experience and create customer engagement, guest engagement, and brand loyalty. Let's talk about training. With digital menu boards in place, you have a platform to deliver training to your teams. Gathering before the store opens or after close, you have a team meeting and you can play content. If you're part of a national franchise organization, the franchising organization can push the content down from the corporate brand. Then you have the opportunity to give your teams the exact training that's being received by other locations. And we even have a few customers who are multi-franchise owners. And they have their own, besides the various brands that they participate in, the training that comes from them, they also have some of their own, okay, as part of, XYZ franchise organization, this is something that we always do to make our guests and customers most comfortable. They have that ability and they can mix it all in. You have flexibility. We've discussed how the concept of localized consistency can help, but what if we took that to a higher level? What if the local owner-operator was given a portion of the menu to deliver location-specific menu items, whether that be services or food items, things that were specific to the very neighborhood we are serving? Think about culturally specific food items, or if your location is in East Texas, maybe you have a local service to install gun racks and pickup trucks. Digital menu boards give you that flexibility. Now, again, I'm being a bit facetious, but if you have the opportunity to capture value, to engage your local neighborhood better, why wouldn't you do things? Now, I doubt that we will see large name brand franchises suddenly starting to allow their local owner-operators to add non-standard things to the menu. But what if we could present the menu or items on the menu in a way that felt more local? That flexibility is important. Another one that's big, it really is big in my opinion, is safety. I mean, let's be honest, this has to be a major concern. Whenever the static menu board has to be updated, you've got someone climbing up on a ladder or, heaven forbid, a chair to reach the board and make the changes. And I don't care if you are in a service business or if you are in a food business or anywhere else where you have menu boards and things. Invariably, that's dangerous. and accidents happen. With digital, you're going to be doing this from a desktop. You're going to be sitting safely in the chair, and this may not show up on the annual report, but it's an important consideration. We've had a lot of interaction with hospitality, hotels, motels, and organizations like that. And we found ways where we can turn menu boards and information boards into direct money-making tools. View the menu board this way. View it as a revenue creator outside of the uplift and the focus that we have been discussing. What if you used a portion of the screen as sellable advertising space? We have an example of that with one of our hospitality customers. They are providing guests with information about the local area. This is why they have the board. The services and attractions in the local area are listed, but because they are a hotel, local businesses constantly stop by, dropping off flyers and brochures in their lobby. Our customers are telling the business owners, save the money spent on the flyers, pay me a small monthly fee, and not only will I make sure you're on that screen, I'll make sure you show up at the top of the list when patrons search for a specific service or attraction or food or item on our system. Now you've got a screen creating revenue, not just enhancing. Okay? There's a balancing act here. I'm not saying that you need to turn your branding area and your customer information menu board into some sort of billboard on the highway. But as I said at the outset, you have a lot of flexibility. You can fit a lot of information in the same space that you might have had for static menu boards. Why not explore that possibility? And if I'm in a local service business and I want to recommend some of my fellow business owners in the area for certain services, why wouldn't I take advantage of the opportunity? Information. Creating a guest experience involves giving information and sometimes what I call edutainment. One of the soft areas that we always talk about is the ability to provide information. It's soft because we don't know what the ROI is on having calorie counts listed on the menu, but it is a requirement to have that. So the fact that it's built in is just a plus. And if your objective is to minimize the perceived wait time, then edutainment is helpful because you can assign a revenue generator number to that reduction in perceived wait time, to that guest satisfaction. You can absolutely put numbers to that. And finally, I don't like to think about these type of events, but it's always nice to know that in the event of an emergency, whether it's site-specific or within a local geography, you have the ability to inform your patrons with up-to-date information. We've seen this, when the local first responders find that they have a digital display system at their disposal. They can put information up to help people understand what to do. And increasingly, the systems like Amber Alerts, Silver Alerts, and other things are standardizing in a way so that you can help get the word out when needed. Menu boards are a very important tool. This quote came from a King Casey report that was done by Howell and Blackiston. And by the way, if you want just some really good information about why menu boards should be a strategic concern and why you should pay particular attention to using digital tools here, I encourage you to check out the King Casey website and Howland specifically. He has some excellent material there. But, in one of his reports, this CEO of a 400-site quick-service restaurant chain, sorry, this is one of the best investments my company can make. In this individual's opinion, it's probably his most important tool to increase profits. And again, I go back to that example that I talked about a little bit earlier. So some thoughts and advice. Let me say this now. This part of the presentation, this is Mike Tippets' opinions, ideas, and concepts. I'm going to give you my advice on some things to consider, and I hope that it'll be helpful, and I also hope that it will generate some questions and maybe get you thinking about certain things and questioning the hows and the whys. First of all, This is an important project. This is an important tool, and you must have a strategy on how you're going to maximize the tool and how you're going to use that tool. What you see on the screen right now are some of the key components that should be in your menu board strategy discussion. And these are based on my experience of working with people who are considering it, the things that they sat down, and when they took the time to say, okay, we're going to do this, what do we need to do and how do we make it smart? We see this. Now, please notice I have highlighted content sourcing. This is a critical piece. Whether it is simply to define the size, shape, and type of images or videos that you'll support, which, by the way, is critical, or more likely, is it finding sources of content that you will utilize around your product and services information? This is even more important. Some of the suggestions that I share with people who ask me: the Ad Council that puts together public service announcements. These are the no smoking, Smokey the Bear, healthy living. They're very, very nice public service announcements, or PSAs. If you're in a situation where you control, or you have the ability to control some of that content, in other words, it's not completely mandated by a national brand, these are excellent pieces of information. They absolutely play to the whole infotainment, edutainment aspect of reducing the perceived wait time. If I'm in ordering a sandwich at my favorite sandwich shop and there's a couple of clips up there about healthy living and healthy eating, that certainly helps me get through the line quicker. This has to be viewed as a cycle. With your menu board strategy, you need to take this cyclic approach, and that is implement, evaluate, and enhance. Your digital now, you have the ability to test things, make improvements fast and efficient. You can test menu patterns, you can do A/B comparisons, you can try things in different areas. You don't have to send the same menu screen to every single location because that's just how you print them all. You have the ability to do trial and error. You have the ability to find out if POS is enhanced by this order or that layout. And you want to be constantly evaluating. Think of these digital displays like people do when they evaluate television advertising. Okay, I try it, I see what the results are, I modify it. I may change the time of day, I may change the order. There's lots of things that you can do there. Also, digital menu boards are so much more than screens. I recently posted a small article on LinkedIn about this, where I talked, just a little bit. It was just a short post about this, and I had several people privately email, and a few people made public comments about how their organization needed to understand this. A few of them said we ran into the program without thinking about that, and they gave me kind of that validation of, what, people who don't think of this are absolutely making a mistake. But I think we've successfully proven this in our conversations, and I want to make it very clear that the digital menu boards include so many different aspects that if you've properly planned, it's fantastic. Again, going back to what I said at the outset, it doesn't have to be a big complexity. You just need to plan for it and think about it in advance, and then consider these things that we've been talking about, like content sourcing and things like installation and field maintenance services, and then also, again, access and integration. We've talked about making it possible for people to participate that are remote and different things like that. Make sure that whatever you choose, it's going to give you the flexibility to integrate with external sources and do the things that you want it to do. Some of the integrations that might be up for discussion are simple things like RSS data feeds. Do you want to put weather? You want to put news, sports items, things like that up on the screen? Or do you want to take it to a new level and do integration with the in-house point-of-sale system? Do you want inventory to impact what's up on the screen and different things like that? So make sure that you take those things into consideration in your planning. And the other thing that I tell people all the time, you know, there's an old statement, don't try to boil the ocean the day you start. Maybe you want to be integrated with the point of sale system, but that's going to require some work and some effort, and you want to get going sooner than that. Make your case and build it on a system that will allow you to expand that way. And again, anyone that's ever worked with any kind of a project like this, certainly projects that involve technology, if it's not measured, it's pretty meaningless. Now, let me give you my thoughts on measurement and analytics. First of all, yeah, you must provide a path to measure. You must understand what you're going to compare A and B and how you're going to decide. But you've got to establish the goal line. Define at the very first discussion what victory means. I've met with too many customers who were into a project, who started it, and they don't know what victory is. They don't know what the primary goal was. Define what the primary goal of this digital menu board solution is. If it's revenue uplift, fine. Put in place the tools and processes to measure that information and see how you're doing against revenue. If there are other objectives that this technology should help with, define them. And don't just define those goals, define how you're going to measure it, define how you're going to declare success. It goes back to that evolution, that cyclic nature. I know what I'm trying to achieve. If I haven't achieved it all at the first, what do I want to modify so that I can continue to move forward? These measurements, or these objectives, better said, will be specific. From one quick service restaurant to another, they'll likely to be different. From a quick service restaurant to a service shop, they'll be different. But define what success is from the outset. And even if you define it as steps, phase one, we want to be able to do this, that defines success. Phase two, we will add in when we get to a certain point, that defines success. And then don't wait on reporting and comparing results to goals. One of my favorite quotes says this: if you want to see improvement, measure it. But if you want to increase the rate of improvement, measure it and report the results. So don't wait 60, 90, 120 days after putting it up to start trying to measure stuff. Start doing things to immediately check the impact of that. And that may be simple things like putting something on the screen that says, hey, click this, say this, do this at the register, and receive a happy button, or whatever the case may be, a discount, so forth, so that you can tell whether or not people are looking at the screen and if it's making any kind of an impact. One other thing, I'm always asked about ideas on how to integrate mobile devices. Okay, we do have a lot of people who say, how can I take my menu and push it down to the mobile device, as they walk into the store? And that's a very I guess worthy, or certainly lofty, goal. And with the rapid growth in retail apps, so the ability to shop and order in advance, whether I'm going for food, I'm going for services, or going for goods, the ability to integrate an online ordering system with a screen or screens in your location are huge. If the customer can walk into your location having created an order in advance, food, services, or any collection of products, and immediately see a display that shows what orders are ready for pickup, and also maybe provide some type of infotainment, edutainment that will keep their attention while they're waiting, they're going to be more satisfied, and then less likely to be running out looking for a staff member to query about their order. Okay. Again, this can be customized and made specific to the environment that you're in, but I believe that is a good way to start bringing that mobility and the in-store signage, menu boards, promotional information together, and that's just one example. Well, listen, the great thing about this topic is the dynamic nature of this information. the experiences, the opportunities to further our own knowledge and understanding. I've been doing this for over 10 years now, and really it's exciting to sit and talk with people. As you make this journey or continue on one that maybe you've already started with digital menu boards, please continue this conversation with me. I can be reached at Twitter and LinkedIn, and I welcome the chance to discuss specific experiences and talk about how to resolve obstacles and create new opportunities for success. Again, thank you all very much for your time. I appreciate it. Curtis, do we have any questions, anything from the audience?
Yes, we actually have a couple of questions. A couple of them were heavily involving localized content. So I'm going to kind of tie these questions all into one. But one of the questions was looking for clarification on localized consistency. Is that like giving shout-outs for the local high school basketball team?
Oh, that's an excellent example. Yes. So at the highest level, what I was trying to convey there is, let's make sure we have the option, okay? So let's make sure the system gives us the option. But now if you start talking about what would you do, I would absolutely involve the local schools. We did have one that they were somewhere between fast casual and quick service restaurant. It was a franchise guy, or excuse me, not a franchise guy, but a gentleman who owned 5 restaurants in a geographic area. He actually put together an arrangement where he got the video of the Friday night high school football game, and on Saturday mornings he replayed it on some screens in his location. And he had a good crop of folks who would come to the restaurant and have a breakfast and sit and watch the game over and do different things. But I would absolutely, any restaurant that is in the geography of a high school, I'd find ways. I would study when the students are in, and I would put stuff up on the screen, because all that does is just build enthusiasm and excitement and gets them into a pattern of coming to my restaurant or coming to my location, because I recognize them, and play on rivalries and all kinds of fun things. I absolutely would.
Tying into that question a little bit, there's another one that says, can you think of any other examples where localized content has made an impact?
Yes. It is becoming increasingly common for organizations to do what we call promotion through not generosity, but philanthropy. So, you see on highways increasingly, the next 2 miles are being cleaned and cared for by XYZ local store, XYZ local restaurant, what have you. As the idea of corporate giving, especially in today's world, people really put a lot of value on companies and organizations that give back to the local community in some form or fashion. What I would suggest is one of the things you could put in that local content area is, hey, this past weekend, a portion of our staff got together and went and did this, and there's some pictures or little video clips. As we all know, it is so incredibly easy anymore with digital phones and tablets and such to capture great pictures and little video segments. But come back and put that on a screen somewhere in and around your, whether it's part of your menu board or not, that's your decision and your design, but certainly, on a screen nearby where you're saying, listen, by shopping here, by spending your dispensable or discretionary dollars with us, you're helping the local community because we took our people and we went out and did this good thing in the community. So I would absolutely encourage people to do things like that. And then, of course, just raw business related, last quarter we had a promotion. We didn't get through all of the promotional materials, or we have, we're deep in it for some reason. Let me just do an extra advertisement or extra promotional idea on screen. Or the reverse of that is, oh my goodness, it was so successful. I've brought it back just because, nationally or something, it may or may not have been as successful as it was in my neighborhood for whatever reason. And again, of course, you have to balance that with the brand requirements and the brand rules. But we are seeing digital menu boards go so many places, and we're seeing even large brands start to understand that they have got to give the local people some control and some capability. But again, that's why I love that term. I pat myself on the back a little, I guess, but localized, just localized consistency. Because I don't want people going off the rails if I'm a national brand, but I'm crazy if I don't give them the chance to do some things locally that they know will make a real impact.
And another question was, can you integrate the Hughes menu board with the perhaps a POS where inventory can, whether they're running low on a certain kind of tires or they have excess inventory, can it be tied into the POS?
The answer is yes. The answer is an absolute yes. And again, Curtis, as you well know, we try to keep these from being direct sales presentations, but let me just say this. Digital menu boards and our digital menu board solution has open hooks, and if a customer wishes to have it tied into their specific POS and then have it do specific things based on variables and things that we get from the POS, not just simply, oh, we changed the price in the POS and it automatically happened on the screen, which is important, but to have that if-then logic, our system is absolutely open to doing that. It can do that at an individual site, but you set all that up nationally. You can make overall rules, and then the behaviors are site-specific. That's one of the great benefits of our player platform and the things that we do there. And I would absolutely love the opportunity to speak with people who are interested in trying to do that. As just a fast example, we actually did an experiment with a pharmacy chain where we put screens up, and the majority of the screen was content coming from the national brand, whatever advertisements and product promotions they wanted to do, but the sidebar of the screen was prescriptions ready to pick up. Well, obviously that information is unique to every location, and we had two challenges there. The first one was, how do we integrate, which we were able to accomplish, and the second one was, how do we maintain all of the security that is essential when dealing with medical information of any kind. And we were able to work with the brand and come up with a way to display prescription-ready information that maintained the confidentiality and HIPAA regulations, and gave the brand national control over most of the screen and localized information control. There was not a new system. We just tied into an existing one, so the local pharmacist didn't have to change their way of doing business, and it was terrific. I was really proud of the team for putting that together. That is, generally speaking, kind of a professional service, somewhat custom operation for different clients, but our product has the hooks and the abilities to do that quite well.
Perfect. Just two more quick questions. One is, what does a typical configuration look like? Does it require a Mac or a PC, and where is the CMS?
Excellent questions. Excellent questions. My recommendation is this. I don't care what platform, whether your organization prefers Mac or Windows. You can do both quite well. The day has passed where, Mac and some of these platforms give you any kind of a significant graphics or visual advantage. The CMS, in my opinion, should be cloud-based. Whether that cloud exists within your company's firewall, or it's hosted by a company like ours so that you don't have to put servers and things in place and storage, you can just depend on us. That really comes down to some IT preferences, within your organization, and we offer solutions in both considerations. The other big question is always, is it one player per screen, or can one player drive multiple screens? And it really comes down to what you're trying to do. In a standardized digital menu implementation, where what I'm putting up on the screen is pictures of product, prices of the various line items and different things like that. It is possible to use one player to drive somewhere between 2 and 6 screens. The player to do that is usually a bit more expensive than a one-to-one type player. But again, if you're driving 6 screens with one, it's not a 6x increase. So there's a lot of value there. The other thing that is very important when you sit down and you start thinking about that, If you're in a situation where the customer walks in and looks at the menu board to decide what they want to order, you certainly don't want that menu board or any one screen of it to be dark. So one of the things that we've worked on very hard with within our own teams is the idea that, hey, you know what, I may have one player driving 6 screens, but I'm actually going to put two players in tied to all 6 screens, and if one of the players should happen to fail, the other one takes over. And then also, if one of the screens for some reason should fail, the players sense that and they realign to a different, so that you never have, if the screen has failed, you do have a dark screen, but all of your menu material, all your menu information is displayed. Having said that, I want to say this. In the last 5 years, and really in the last 3 years, very, very much so, the reliability of both the player technologies and the monitors, the display technologies, has grown so significantly that really you're seeing 100,000 hours of time between failures and things like that. So they're being built and designed to run 24/7, to be turned on, to be displaying. There are things that you can do to make sure that you maximize those, and that is an area where I would tell you there's a real advantage in working with an experienced provider like us. We know how to ask these questions and to talk to you about, do your screens need to be on 24/7, or are they 18/7? And do you have a way to automate turning on and off? Do you have a way of automating some of these different things that are really important in building and keeping a long service term? So that's an excellent question.
And then one final question is: it seems as though this solution would work out very well for obviously a franchise. But for a person like myself who owns 3 sub-shops, how does one go ahead and get started? And is this a solution that's too big for me?
Oh, excellent question. And and again, let me qualify this. This is not the salesperson in me coming out. No, absolutely. We have solutions that we know. You want to start out. Even if you are a large organization, you might want to test the waters, and you can't afford to bring on a big overhead. But no, we have solutions very, very specific that will do an awesome job for a single site, even if it was just a single screen, and we can make that very affordable. And the best thing that I can say there is reach out to us and let us get a little bit more information about what you have, and then let me show you, let our team show you how affordable it really can be. Because we can leverage shared infrastructure that will give you all the privacy, security, and things that you would want, but you're not having to bring on a whole bunch of infrastructure and upfront costs that you might if you were trying to do it on your own.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, that's the amount of time we have for questions today. So again, Mike, thank you very much for your time today. And again, for those who are looking at the screen, please do continue the conversation. Follow Mike on Twitter or on LinkedIn. We certainly look forward to chatting with you and learning more about you. And again, remember this webinar will be recorded and be sent out shortly and made available on our Hughes Unleash website. So again, thank you for joining us, and you all have a great day and a great weekend. Bye-bye now.